When there are kids playing on a playground, it's usually a group running around all together and they are happy as they laugh together. This is the usual sight to be expected when it comes to small children. They aren't usually worried about secretly questioning each other, or worried about how someone's vibe or sense of creativity shapes their playtime or their self-image. It's rare to see instances where all the children are playing together and one or a few of them are left out. Maybe while they're running around, there's some kids who are alone, building strange shapes in a sandbox that couldn't even be properly named a sandcastle. Who knows exactly why this child or children are quietly separate from the group? Maybe they decided they don't feel like running around to play and would rather make their weird shapes. Maybe they've been approached a few times and denied playing the louder, more fun games makes them uncomfortable. There is freedom that comes when you stop trying to convince the world that you make sense. Most people who aren't the type that encourage or share you or your creative work with the other connections they made spend a draining amount of time managing the perception of their image. They monitor themselves constantly while monitoring, but not sharing, anyone's work page they hit follow on that has an aura of being too unusual, too contradictory to the work of types of people they usually share, too intense, obsessive, or difficult to explain. The weirdos that feel so isolated from the idea of being boosted due to how they choose to express themselves eventually get tired. They aren't tired of being strange. They are tired of the expectation of performing normal behaviors to be included in being visible to others. What the types of people that excludes weirdos should understand is that there comes a point where the cost of translating who you are becomes greater than the cost of being seen as the weirdo. It's the point where you realize that no amount of careful editing of yourself will make everyone comfortable with who you are. Some will find the weirdos odd no matter how much they try to attach a sense of normalcy or sanity to their edges. Others will project things onto them that were never there to begin with. Once this is understood, a sense of comfort in this sense of weirdness emerges. Being a weirdo is comfortable because it eliminates negotiations about your sense of self. You stop waking up every day asking, "How should I be today?" and start asking, "Who am I, actually?" The interests you have stopped becoming something to be embarrassed about just because of a lack of reaffirming feedback. You realize that you do not need to hide the intensity of your feelings to appeal to those who act like any feeling that isn't gratitude or something else associated with happiness is always toxic to your health. You also don't apologize for the pathways of your thinking or the strange little rituals you do that make life meaningful. Weirdness creates a kind of accidental honesty. Normalcy can be a mask because it is always socially rewarded. Weirdness cannot survive that way. The moment the weirdo accepts being a weirdo, they are forced into a closer relationship with themselves. They become less concerned with fitting into existing categories and more concerned with discovering what feels true to their path. This does not mean life becomes easier. Being a weirdo means occasionally watching people misunderstand you or your intentions. It means recognizing that some doors open more slowly. It means accepting that there are rooms where your authenticity will take more time to be welcomed or never be welcomed. Yet it also means that the people who stay around tend to stay for real. When you stop disguising yourself, relationships become less of a performance and more genuine. The people who appreciate you are no longer appreciating some carefully made version of you. They are appreciating the actual person, the strange person, the complicated person. There is comfort in that. There is comfort in knowing that your life belongs to you rather than an audience that is barely trying to get to know you. The older I get, the more suspicious I become of the idea that fitting in is the goal. Normality is often just conformity that has achieved majority status. Every artist, mystic, inventor, philosopher, and dreamer who ever changed the world was considered too strange to share with others by most people. Maybe weirdness is not a deviation from humanity. Perhaps it is what humanity looks like before it's compressed into a socially acceptable shape. The weirdo understands that belonging is not the same thing as fitting in. Fitting in requires editing yourself until you resemble a crowd that acts similar to what you're trying to be. Belonging requires being found by people who can recognize you without the edits. One is an exhausting rat race that begins in an average person who barely has a sense of self. The other feels like returning to a comforting home.